Assalamu alaikum, my dear students of class 12 or HSC examinee. I expect that you are well prepared about the classes happened in the online session or on campus sessions. Today, this is Roxana Parveen, Senior Lecturer, Department of Biology, Milestone College. Welcome you back to the online class from Chapter 11, Genetics, Heredity and Evolution. Well, today's topics are paleontological and geological evidences of evolution, morphological evidences of evolution, and embryological evidences of evolution. After learning today's topics, we'll be able to know the most accepted evidences with reference to their examples to support the evolutionary theories, and we'll be able to answer the specific evidences as per the question demands. Today's lecture would focus on the evolutionary evidences provided by Darwin. There are many evolutionary evidences including these three, but these three can be considered as the centralized evolutionary evidences, which are paleontological and geological evidences, morphological evidences, and embryological evidences. As you know that paleontological evidences means the remaining organism's body, like nails or any kind of body part or hair, which are just found underneath the rock or in between different fossil fuels or others. These are called the paleontological evidences. So after researching on these evidences, scientists have drawn a conclusion that the theories provided by Darwin is true. So here is the morphological evidences. Morphological evidences means by studying the morphology and anatomy of an organism, it is very clear that we have been evolved from very simple structure to the complex one and many things more. What is the embryological evidences? Embryological evidence means the evidences which provide lots of proofs to get the similarity among the developmental stages of the vertebrate organisms. So these are the principal topics today. Let's focus on the paleontological and geological evidences of evolution. There are many examples of the paleontological evolution, but by the evolution of horse, scientists have proved the basic or core points of the evidences of evolution. As you can see, the modern horse Equus is 60 inches tall with the hooves instead of its digit or finger. But it was not just like this about 6 crores of years ago. You see, the first horse, when it was arrived about 6 crores of years ago, was known as Eohippus. It was only 11 inches tall with 4 digits or fingers. Then it gradually developed its height and it increased into 2 feet tall with the 3 digits. Here 1 digit from each leg disappeared. These are called Mesohippus. The next variety of the horse came, which was called the Merychippus, which were 3 feet tall with only 1 functional digit out of 3 digits. That means they had 3 digits but only 1 was functional. The next, the Pleohippus came with 50 inches tall. Only 1 digit was activated, or the 1 digit was very prominent. No 3 digits. Okay. The last or the modern horse came, which was called the Equus, and still they are surviving in the nature, which are approximately 60 inches tall with hooves instead of digit or finger. These paleontological evidences of horses clearly dictate that evolution occurred. So Gradually they gained their height, their body structures, they gained the fastest body movement, but they reduced their digits or fingers of their legs. So we can discuss these 5 points along with the timetable, or when they appeared and when they gradually developed. Okay, so let's see the presentation. Horses evolution in brief. So let's know the names and their changes during the time of the horses and the formation of the modern horse, which is called Equus. However, let's start with the Equus, the ancestors one. The genus which all modern equines, including the horses, zebras, evolved from the Pleiohippus some 4 to 4.5 million years ago during the Pliocene era. Okay, Pliocene is the era. Equus shows even greater development of the spring mechanism in the foot and exhibits the straighter and longer cheek teeth. Here are the diagrams. So this one is the recent one and this one was the previous one, and you see gradually they were actually very shorter, or they had lots of differences in their body parts. As you see, this and this, 5 horses can be discussed. Let's go for the fossil evidences of evolution. Well, my dear students, there are some other examples of the paleontological and geological evidences of evolution, connecting link and connecting organisms. The examples of the connecting link may include Archaeopteryx. What is Archaeopteryx? This kind of organism, fossil, possesses the characteristics of both birds and reptiles. So, it is called the connecting fossil between the birds and reptiles. Okay, so what are the characteristics it had of reptilia? Obviously, they had a long tail with 20 vertebrae. Okay, and they also had the skeleton, which are made from robust and solid bones, teeth with the jaw, with the dry scales, with wings, with talons. But they also had the characteristics like birds. They had a similar body structure like a bird. That means they had the wings which can vigorously fly. They had a similar bone arrangement like the birds. They possessed the wings and feathers. Okay, and leaves were also covered by the beaks. So these all are the mixture found in the Archaeopteryx. So by this animal it is proved that there is of course kind of relationship between the previous animals and the modern animals during developmental stages. Another example, you may know the platypus. This is a very common animal which contained the both characteristics of mammals and reptiles. So let's see what are the characteristics. The jaw and the lips in platypus is like that of ducks. They got a hairy skin and feed their offspring with breast milk. So these are obviously the characteristics of the mammalia. Okay. What about the reptiles characteristics? The reptiles characteristics were they lay eggs like the snakes with many yolks. Okay. They also had the excretory system like the reptiles. So these connecting organisms prove that the mammals are originated from reptiles. Here is the characteristics of very close phyla or classes. Okay, here is the example of an animal which was called the Archaeopteryx. Okay, you see it looks like a bird, but it also have some sort of features like reptiles. So here are some important points about the fossil evidences of evolution. Fossil remains have been found in rocks of all the ages. Fossils of the simplest organisms are found in the oldest rocks, and fossils of more complex organisms in the newest rocks. This supports Darwin's theory of evolution, which states that simple life forms gradually evolved into more complex ones. You see the diagram of some fossils of octopus which are embedded in the rocks or sands. My dear students, there are some important points regarding embryological evidences of evolution. Includes the embryology of different vertebrates provide very strong evidence of different vertebrates showing the striking similarities. There is an obvious similarity between embryos of fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. A comparison of embryos of vertebrates shows that all have gill slits even though they do not remain later in life except in fishes. This indicates a fundamental step that is common to all vertebrates and supports the idea of a common ancestor. Other features that do not exist in the adult form but appear in the embryos include limb birds in dolphins and human tail birds. This shows that these species share a common ancestor, so their developmental processes occur in a similar way regardless of that other changes have taken place since their divergence. Here you see the different diagrams of the embryological evidences which shows the important but interesting facts of the embryological evidences of evolution. As you see, the diagram shows the clear evidence of evolution which supports the evolutionary concept of Darwin. Okay, so you see the first, all these lines are all about the embryos. You see they look similar but they are not of the same animal. Okay, they are of different animals of different classes of vertebrata. Okay, you see here this embryo develops into fishes, this one into amphibians or salamander, this one into a kind of turtle, this one kind of birds. Okay, and finally this is about the mice, the cat, the rabbit and the humans. All are kind of same. So you see the developmental traits out there. Okay, so that's how we can say that embryonic evidences are the clear evidence or proof of evolution which supports that ontogeny in these embryonic stages. They all possess two-chambered heart, aortic arches, gills and gill slits which are similar to fish embryo. Adults of these animals do not retain these characteristics. In course of evolution, the embryonic gill slits were closed. The aortic arches became modified into carotid and the other arteries and the heart became three-chambered in amphibians, gradually developed into four-chambered heart in reptilians, followed by a complete four-chambered heart in birds and mammals. Okay, all these evidences indicate that amphibians, reptilians, birds and mammals have descended from the same common ancestral stock or root like the fishes. So, the development of the body structure from zygote through sequential stages is known as ontogeny, and the origin of a species from this ancestral stock through the gradual and sequential development is called phylogeny. So, Hickman, based on the embryological data of German scientist von Weyer, postulated the theory of biogenesis, which states that ontogeny repeats the phylogeny. According to Haeckel, all the organisms recapitulates their ancestral features during embryonic development. So, my dear students, I understand that there might be some issues memorizing those names, but it is very easy and you need to impose those information at your final sheet or final example. Okay, so these are all about the embryonic evidences. Well, vestigial organs. This is another strong example to support the morphological evidences of evolution. Vestigial organs are the structures which can be considered the evidence for evolution, the process by which beneficial inheritable traits arise in populations over time. The existence of vestigial traits can be attributed to changes in the environment and behavioral patterns of the organism in question. So, what is that? It seems like quite hard, right, my dear students? No, not at all. What is vestigial organ? These are none other than the non-functional organ which have been unused for a great long time period in human body or others. Okay, so they have become quite non-functional. In the past, we had to live in the caves and we had to, eat up and digest the raw materials without the cellulose digestion. That's why these were very necessary. But nowadays, with the civilization, we learned how to cook, so we don't need them at all. So this is now vestigial. It's easy. It's the caudal vertebrae. In other vertebrate like cows, cattle, dogs, and cats, other things, you see the tails. But we also had tails. This is the proof. Okay, the caudal vertebrate, the coccygeal bones are totally fused, and this is the proof of having tails. Okay, so and lots of evidences, as you can see. There are some pictures of morphological evidences of evolution. The picture is showing the appendix out there. Now let's have some concepts on geological time scales. Geological time scale, according to the history of paleontology and archaeology, the history began 2.5 millions of years ago. The earth forms 4.6 billions of years ago. So this is the parts which are different era, and these are the different stages, and this scale shows the millions of years. Okay, so let's go to the time scale. Here is the time scale. The key events are there. This is the table which is showing the eon in the first column, second is era, third is period, and next millions, how many millions of years ago it was formed, and the duration, and finally the key events. The era can be categorized into 4 mega parts. Okay, from the past it became Hadean and Archean, Proterozoic and Phanerozoic. Phanerozoic gradually became Paleozoic, followed by Mesozoic, and finally the recent Cenozoic. Okay, so the previous 3 era was known as eon and era altogether commonly, because no such history have been found to define the fossil ages or stone ages. So these are called the Precambrian age, okay, or period. And the Paleozoic era are also called Cambrian era, followed by Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, Permian, etc. And then the Mesozoic started with Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Tertiary, and Quaternary are the Cenozoic. So Cenozoic contained 2 periods, Tertiary the previous and the recent Quaternary. Okay, and from the 1.6 billions of years of the time scale, okay, the recent era started and humans evolved during this era during this period. So the earliest life were bacteria, some viruses, protoviruses, etc. Then invertebrates became common in the Paleozoic era. Then Permian mass extinction. Then the great extinction occurred over there. Then dinosaur arrived, and dinosaur distinguished by the Jurassic era, and the humans evolved from the Quaternary period. So that's all about the period or timetables. Well, the homeworks are: explain the paleontological and geological evidences of evolution, explain the morphological evidences of evolution, and explain the embryological evidences of evolution. Thank you very much.